Back in the locker room, everybody, with Tunch and Wolf, and joining us, our good buddy Kevin Gorman of the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review. Kevin, welcome.
Always a pleasure to be here, guys.
How about this? We got new digs.
Yeah,
this is beautiful. No big chairs,
chairs that are collapsible.
More comfortable. We've definitely.
I feel safer.
Hey, we're uptown. We're on the CW. We're definitely uptown. Let's talk Pitt basketball first. How do you, as you look at this year, and obviously disappointment because the expectations were such, but when you look at this Pitt team, is it a disappointment, or is it really kind of where you expected them to be?
Well, on a realistic level, that's
Right.
just kind of what I expected. I thought they'd be a team that could get to the Sweet 16. I think even if they would have gotten to the Elite 8, that would have been as far as they could go. And I think what's happened is they've developed such a program that a 29-win season and a trip to the Sweet 16 isn't good enough. And to me, that's really shows how far this program has come. In the 8 years between Ben Howland getting here and now Jamie Dixon taking over this, this team, and I think it says a lot about them that they are able to get to this status, and they've been able to maintain it more than anything. But they still have failed to take that next step, and so that is disappointing to a lot of people, especially when you look at the way they started the season, ranked number 4 in some polls. Some people projected them as the Big East Conference champion. Aaron Gray is the preseason player of the year. None of those things came to fruition, but yet, when you look back, a 29-win season and a trip to the Sweet 16, and they lost to a Final Four team, that says a lot about this team, and I think they have a good incoming recruiting class, and it's not a program that's going to take a step backwards, but one that's just a matter of time before they take that extra step forward.
Kevin, when you get in there talking to the players and you muddle around a little bit and get their opinion, did you have a sense of they got about as far as they expected, or was there a great disappointment? Like, we know we have the ability to go further than what we've shown.
This was a team that was a Final Four bust in their minds. Aaron Gray came back for that very reason, because they thought they had a chance to do something very special, to win 2 games in the NCAA tournament for the first time in school history. They thought they could win a Big East Conference regular season championship. They could win the tournament championship. They thought they could make a big NCAA tournament run, and they didn't accomplish any of those things. And that's why there's this air of kind of deflation instead of people saying, "Wow, what a great year it was." You look around. There's a lot of programs in the country that would take where Pitt is right now.
Right.
But for Pitt, what they've built, this isn't good enough anymore. And I think that speaks volumes about what Jamie Dixon has done there, because he's taken a program that Ben Howland really built up and rejuvenated, and he's kind of maintained that, and now it's to the point where they want to take it a step farther, and I think that's the way it should be. You should shoot for the Final Four and for the national championship every year, and when you set those as your goals, eventually you're going to reach them.
What does Pitt have to do to get to? You talk about getting to the next level. What does Pitt have to do? What do they have to get there?
Well, I think what they're lacking is the prototype NBA swingman. They need to get a small forward who can be maybe a 6'6" player who can shoot from the outside and slash to the basket and keep defenses honest. And what they don't have is that type of player. They have an NBA center this year. In the past, they had a guy who was an NBA candidate to play point guard in Brandon Knight, but they haven't had a guy to maybe keep the perimeter defense honest or the interior defense honest. And so what you saw there was a team, UCLA, that triple teamed Aaron Gray every time the ball not only came to his hands, but every time they even threatened to put the ball in his hands, they had a triple team that ready for him. So you have to have somebody who can complement that player, and that's what they're lacking. And I don't see one on the horizon, but that's kind of where, when you look at other programs, some of these guys have like a 6'11" guy like a Kevin Durant, but you've had your Carmelo Anthonys and your Dwayne Wades, and they're not easy to find.
Syracuse guy, by the way, Carmelo.
Carmelo,
Mello, yeah. He's mellow.
Like a Larry Bird,
Yeah,
that type of player.
Very much.
Oh, please, can we go for the love of Mike, can we go one show without talking about Larry Bird? I want the Larry Bird
Who would you rather have, Larry Bird or Carmelo Anthony?
Oh, Larry Bird.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your honesty.
Well, absolutely. Now, here's one guy that intrigued me so much, Sam Young. Now, you look at where he was last year.
Because Wolf has that same kind of athleticism.
Well,
that
very
Sam
much
Young
so.
does,
We're both above the rim type guys, tight haircuts,
skywalkers,
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Closer in the haircut than anything else. But, you look at Sam Young. I mean, he has got just bucketfuls of athletic talent. And you look at last year, I really thought he was going to take off this year. Tell me, do you think he progressed? or he stayed the same as last year?
Well, I think his tendonitis in his knees really hindered his development early in the season, and at that point, I think had he taken off the way we expected him to, maybe he could have replaced Levon Kendall in the starting lineup. Maybe he could have been the power forward. They were trying to convert him to a small forward. And the one thing you look at this Pitt team, why can't they get any further? Well, this is a team that every guy seems to have some type of a limitation. You have a point guard who's small and doesn't have the size that some of these guys doesn't have a pure shot. You have a shooting guard in Ronald Ramon who comes off the bench and is a great three-point shooter, but he's a little bit small and has trouble defending other guys. Every single guy has a limitation, and Sam Young's is that he's not a ball handler and that he's not an outside shooter. He's a power forward, but he's a 6'7" power forward guy, sometimes giving up a couple inches. So none of these guys are the prototype at their position, but they all bring something to it. What he really brings is that athleticism that the team is really missing, but he's a guy who, when you look at him, a 6'7" guy, his size and his athletic ability, you'd imagine to be a small forward, but he's really more of a power forward the way he plays.
So it's kind of like Tunch when he played for the Steelers. Not only was he short, he was also slow, huh?
And not athletic. I wasn't like you and Sam Young.
We're tight.
I'll tell you what, I'm talking about my man here. We're playing a charity basketball game against Philadelphia Eagles. Wolf decides he's going to put on a Dr. J show. Steals the ball from Harold Carmichael. He's going coast to coast. Takes the ball in one hand, palms it, and starts taking off from the top of the key, a la Dr. J. But he doesn't even get quite to the free throw line. And so now instead of a tomahawk jam, he's coming up with a very weak jump shot runner.
Well, it was a layup that bounced, bricked out to the half court.
So, my man, the athlete here.
A little miscalculation there.
Pitt is losing some serious senior leadership. Next year, is the forecast gloomy, or is it should we be excited based on what happened this year?
Well, I think a lot of people are looking at them losing a guy like Aaron Graves, a third-team All-American,
right,
saying they're losing a 7-footer in the center and they have no one on the horizon to replace him.
Right.
And you're losing the leadership with guys like Gray, and Levon Kendall was a fifth-year senior. So that's a tough thing. Antonio Graves is a four-year guy who started the last 2 seasons but was a contributor all 4 years. They're going to have to replace that leadership, and it's going to be up to someone, whether it's Mike Cook or Levance Fields or Ramon. One of these guys is going to have to step in that leadership role. But they have one of their best recruiting classes coming in. They have a couple 6'10" guys. They have DeJuan Blair from Shenley High School.
From Shenley, watched him the other night.
Man-child, he can be. I like to compare him, not his style of game, but I think his productivity to a Brian Shorter type. He's going to be a 6'6", 6'7" power forward. He's more of a finesse player than Shorter was. He's very agile around the basket, but I think he's a guy who can make an immediate impact. And I think people are going to underestimate Pitt this year and this coming season, and maybe that way they'll be able to exceed expectations instead of fail to live up to them.
So they can sneak up on a few teams. Huh?
Finesse guy, kind of good around the basket. Kind of reminds me of not really.
Larry Bird.
That's right. You were a jump shooter. My man was a jump shooter.
Oh yeah, no, I took it to the hole. Yeah, I take it to the hole.
You couldn't even find the hole.
Well, that was part of the problem.
Jumping way too soon. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Pitt spring football workouts and where they're going, a little bit Pitt women's basketball and some high school basketball as well. Right after this.